everybody to episode 1 of the South Kongress podcast. I'm in the mothership. I'm in the dungeon. I'm in the bat cave that is bigger, faster, stronger training. I'm here with the owner, proprietor, head trainer, drill sergeant, head coach, whatever you want to call him, Mike O'Hara. Mike, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So, to give everybody a background, kind of everything, almost a year ago, you and I kind of started talking about this. Mm-hmm. I told you I wanted to do a show. I told you that, I was interested in talking about you, about some things about your life, about your business, just because I grew up around some really interesting people. And you kind of the first person who jumped in my head. We've had some conversations over the last 5 years that are really different than conversations I thought we'd ever have. And so, it stuck with me. It was like, this is a guy I have to sit down with, I have to talk to, got to get his story out there. And then really want to touch on the things you're doing now, the way you're helping people now, because to me, it's just really impressive stuff. And I told you, even before we got on here, the first thing I was going to do, I'm going to try to embarrass you as fast as I can. So let's see where we get. Mike, I can pinpoint the day that I knew that you were different than most people I know. And you're not going to remember this. It's our first JV game our junior year. I want to say we're playing MacArthur at home, okay? And you are absolutely pissed to even be there. You're pissed. And I don't mean pissed in the sense that I am too good to be here, but it was like, as hard as I work, as hard as I go, this is not where I belong. And as a matter of fact, if I'm remembering it right, you were a backup that game. You didn't even start that game. And you went in there and you tore shit up. There's not a better way to say it. And it was after that game, we had, I want to say Chalo went down, the varsity game that week, and the coaches were looking for a guy to fill that spot and immediately thought of you because of how you performed in the game the day before. Does that all kind of ring a bell to you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's funny. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm honored. I appreciate all the kind words that you've said about me so far. But yeah, that was an interesting. You nailed it pretty well. It definitely wasn't a cocky, arrogant thing that I felt like I was better than anybody, but it was definitely, and in fact, you've said it better than I've ever said it. It was definitely more of like, man, I'm the first guy in the weight room, the last guy to leave. Like but I was never given an opportunity. The sophomore year, matter of fact, I didn't play one play on JV. I never got in the game. You know what I mean? So they obviously had no idea what I was capable of. Interestingly enough, I actually gave myself 3 games, and I was like, man, if I'm not on varsity by the 3rd game, I'm quitting. I'm done. I've worked too hard, and it worked out. Obviously, Chalo got injured, and I think Fox did too, because he was behind Chalo, and then they bumped me up. I went from backup JV to starting varsity in 1 week, which was pretty cool.
And it's what you said. It's for people who don't know, we went to Taft High School in San Antonio. Actually, our freshman year, program was good, coaches were good. Stuff happens behind the scenes. That guy's out. That guy takes a different job, and so we get these new guys in who eventually turn out to be really good, but you don't know right away. So kind of the thing that happens is if you don't have that familiarity already with those guys, and they don't know who you are, some guys get lost in the shuffle, right? And at the time, Mike, you're one of those guys. And then probably, I'm sorry.
No. I was kind of lost in the shuffle from the jump because I went to a Catholic school from kinder to 8th grade, so I wasn't, a lot of like that, the high schools with the big 5As. Obviously, the coaches know who's coming to their school out of the middle schools in the area, the feeder schools, and they can select. They have a pretty good idea as to who's going to be, their next up and comer, if you will. And but the kids like myself who come from a private school transitioning into a big public school, At a private school, man, I never came off the field. Never. I mean, I was a wide receiver. I was a linebacker and a safety, a corner. I mean, I was a kick returner, punt returner. I mean, I never came off the field. But obviously, being at a private school, you don't have near as much competition as you do as a big public school. And so coming in, I was kind of, nobody knew me. Nobody knew. And I was small. I was real small. Freshman and sophomore year. Kind of grew up a little bit junior and senior year and put a little bit of size on. So it worked out,
And here's another thing. From where I stood, being, on the outside looking into your situation, it seemed like those guys, those varsity guys, pretty much accepted you off the jump. And that's how it seemed. Now, did it take a little bit of time to transition, you being a younger guy, there not being so many younger guys on varsity? Or you think that happened pretty quick?
No, I didn't really have any issues. From what I remember, it was a pretty smooth transition. It worked out great, man.
And I think what that is, again, you're a gym rat. You carry yourself like that, and I think they recognize the work and they respect the work. We went to school with guys, names on top of your head. You go to school with the Robert Merrills and the Otis McDaniels and the Stephen Williams. These are guys, and the Ram Baylors, guys who are just athletes. Right. Guys who, CJ Thornton, supernatural athlete. Right. You're talking about guys who, not that they don't work hard, but they just have it. Right. They just, and Fox included. Right. Guys that just have it, they can just go, and then, you being a bit different. Not saying you weren't athletic, but when I think about our transition from junior year to senior year, again, you're the guy that coaches say, he's always in here. Or summer workouts, they were like, this is the first guy in, this is the last guy out. He busts his ass, and they recognize that, and so everybody else has to. Right. And I think, probably the thing that you get the most credit for, I don't know if it's direct, but I remember, I want to say it's the Pearland game. This is our junior year going to state, and you playing that kind of nickel position, coach holding you on the side, and then throwing you in depending on what offensive set they ran out, because they had, top recruit quarterback at the time. Yeah, they did. And you're the guy who's putting that confusion in his mind, and so it's throwing off their whole game plan. Yeah. And so I think that's, outside of hard work, when we're talking specific X's and O's, that's kind of the thing you're credited with. Okay? So we transition to senior year. Okay? Get all the way to state. That goes the other way. Everybody's disappointed about that. Right. But so you're one of the guys now. Okay? This is your team. We get to a situation kind of later on in the season where, for whatever reason, you can't play that first playoff game. Right. Okay. I talked about that time our junior year, when you are fed up to be where you are. Now, emotion in football is one thing. Probably, again, us not being guys who necessarily hung out growing up, your reaction after that first playoff game is the first time I realized what team meant to you. Because, a guy can go in, he can lift weights, and he can run, and he can put guys in the right position, but this is different on kind of a personal level. This is you, caring about people, and not necessarily people that, you go to Taco Cabana with after the game. This is the guys who, are in there working with you, wear that same jersey, and that was heavy for me, seeing just, you being emotional to, knowing you could have maybe done something different to help more in the situation, but it didn't go your way. How did that affect you on that level? Man,
that was, it's crazy because, being I think I was 17, I was 17, obviously everybody, you're still a kid at 17. I mean, hell, even until you're 21, I feel like we are.
Which is how I feel too, 21,
yeah. And, but that was the first and the only time in my life that I can truly say that I was truly depressed. I've never felt depression. I've always been pretty good about rolling with the punches, and just that's one thing my mom used to always tell us: you gotta roll with the punches, and just facing adversity, that just with a positive attitude. So I've never really been one to get down on myself and and think about things for too long. And but man, that was hard. I remember just sleeping all day, and football was my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my life as a senior in high school. You know what I mean? As it is for most kids. I mean, if you play the sport and you do pretty well at it, I mean, of course you're gonna love it and enjoy it. And it was hard, man. It was real hard. It sucked. To sit there in the stands, sit there in the stands and see the guys that you sweat, blood, cried, tears, everything, you know what I mean, with, and there's nothing that you can do about it. You're sitting in the stands and there's nothing, when you could have helped them.
Yeah.
Maybe not have changed the outcome of the game. You never know. It's hard to say one man could do that, one kid could do that, but certainly could have helped.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was real hard, man. It sucked.
And again, like, not, us not being super tight, but, coming up, like, troublemaker's not the word, but the thing is, you were
dumbass, knucklehead. I mean, just
tough to a fault is probably what I'd call it.
Okay.
I think, a lot of times you felt the need, to prove yourself. That didn't always put you in the best spot,
right.
But, this was kind of, again, not spending a whole lot of time between maybe 17, 18, and 24, 25.
Right.
It kind of seems like, that moment was sobering. You know what I mean? It made things slow down a bit. So, we get past that. You go off to play a little college ball. It was Cisco, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So me not knowing too much about that, tell me about your experience there.
So that was a interesting couple years there, man. It was a lot of fun, but in a total different way, total different kind of fun I've ever had. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, off of I-20, about 35, 45 minutes east of Abilene, which is a smaller city as well. But Cisco, Texas, man, there's two street lights, I think. There's a Dairy Queen, as there is in most small towns in Texas. I think there was a Sonic, and that was it. It was a dry county. You had to drive 15 to 20 minutes to buy beer. After I got into that trouble, and I was, kind of like what you touched on, I was kind of always a knucklehead. And so any schools that were looking at me, and I didn't have a whole lot, but I had a couple of small schools looking at me, and there was nobody after that. So I had to walk on to Cisco junior college, and luckily I got a scholarship after the first semester. I did pretty well during spring ball, but because I took a semester off out of high school, and then I went up there during spring, what was funny is it kind of the same thing that happened to me in high school happened in college, where I kind of felt like I was getting overlooked, and so at that point I was kind of over it, and so I got registered in my first year, which I felt like I shouldn't have been, and there was a pretty general consensus across the rest of my teammates. They're like, why aren't you playing? Why aren't you, And so that's when I knew, like, all right, this is bullshit. And so that's when I just kind of, I wouldn't say gave up, but I didn't have the fire, that I once had to continue to push and drive. And so I started partying, chasing girls and boozing and.
Which is the same thing I was doing, except in school.
Right.
But that's how it goes. Yeah.
I'm talking going to practice hung over.
Yeah.
Just, going through the motions. But it was funny, man, because I met a lot of great people there. The guys that I, will be lifetime friends from all across the city or the state. And, we obviously grew up in San Antonio, definitely, I would say for all intents and purposes, city boys, but going out to Cisco, man, it's all country. It was a big culture shock, and I loved being out there in the country now, and so now I'm kind of living outside of Austin a little bit, and it ain't the country, but it's certainly not the city, and I love being out here, and it certainly
it's different for your mind.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it calmed me just yet. It took me a few more years to calm down, with all the nonsense. But It was cool, man. It was a great experience. You know, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, met a lot of great people, some really good friends of mine, and you know, it was cool, man.
Okay, so here's, it's funny, we're gonna jump ahead years, but I want you to kind of rewind time as I go along.
Right.
So I'm 20, just turned 23. I'm a few months out of college. I just start my full-time job, first real full-time job out of college. So I'm like, well, all I did in college was drink and eat and sit around. So I need to get back in shape. So I go to 24-Hour Fitness in South Austin, looking to sign up for a gym membership. And who do I see sitting across the table from me? It's Mike O'Hara in a bright red shirt.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I haven't seen this guy pretty much since the day I graduated high school. So it's been a legit almost 6 years since we've even ran into each other. And again, you know, guys who play ball together, but not necessarily friends.
Right.
Like, we're not sending each other Christmas cards.
Right.
But it's instantly from, you know, on your side, man, how you doing? How's it going? What you been up to? Like, it's all love. Walk me, you know, as detailed as you can, from you playing ball in school to you being a full-time personal trainer. What gets you there?
So out of college, I moved to Dallas, and I was there for, I don't know, a good 4 or 5 years. And, you know, in between, you know, high school and college, like the summers coming home and whatnot, you know, I always did construction. You know, and even during high school, I'll do a little bit of construction as well. And so I had some fairly decent handyman skills and developed some decent trade skills and whatnot. And so I got into construction pretty soon. And it's funny, my first job when I moved to Dallas was actually, I was working as a cash registered, what do you call it? I was at a gas station.
Okay, okay.
You know.
You cashier at the gas station.
Cashier, there you go.
It's been so long, you're like,
right,
what's that job?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was there for a couple months, and they started remodeling the convenience store that I worked at. And I was like, hey man, you guys need any extra help, you know? And they're like, well, what can you do? And I started rambling off all these things that I had either like halfway done or seen done, but I knew I could pick up pretty quickly because I was fairly handy. And so I listed everything, you know what I mean? Even if I knew I couldn't do it, but I was like, man, I can learn it, and I'm gonna learn it. And they were like, really? Okay, well, shit, you can start next week if you want, you know? And I was like, sold, you know? And I started doing that, and started off at 10 an hour, worked my way up to be a crew leader, and was within a year and was making over 20 an hour. I mean, it was nonstop work. We were modeling. I think they had over 60 stores on contract, and I came in when we had about 30 left. So I came in about when they were about halfway done, and it was funny because I started making some pretty good money pretty early, you know, and you know, because we had tons of work, but it was sporadic, you know, because we'd have 2 or 3 stores lined up, and you know, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 hours a week. But then, so after we got through those stores, there'd be kind of a stalemate where we'd be 2 or 3 months out of work because we're waiting on inspections, waiting on this, that, or the other. And so, you know, I was young and I didn't really save up my money. So by the time, you know, a couple
you
months,
can't deal with the downtime.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm
got
broke,
you.
You know. So I learned a little bit about saving money. Not a lot because I was still young and dumb. And so, but it was cool, you know. And so finally, you know, we kind of ran out of work there, and I kind of always wanted to be like a coach or a trainer of some sort, because I always kind of just knew my way around in the weight room, and I studied a lot and researched a lot when I was younger, and so they opened up a 24-hour fitness where I was living at the time, which was, I believe, like Duncanville, Cedar Hill area, which is just south of Dallas, and the girl I was dating at the time, her brother was a sales associate there, selling memberships before the gym even opened up, you know. And you know, he's like, man, you should apply, you know. And I was like, cool. So I did. And crazy story, the guy that's interviewing me, I come to find out, sitting across from me, we're interviewing, and he's looking at my resume and we're talking. He's like, man, you went to Taft? I was like, yeah. He's like, I went to Taft. And I was like, what? And he's like, you worked at Gold's off of Bandera? I was like, yeah. He's like, I worked at Gold's off of Bandera. And so it was just, he was a little older than me, you know. So, but his name's Troy Grant. He was actually a corner. I think we were in 8th grade. You know, he's about 4 or 5 years older than us.
Okay.
And he actually played in the NFL a few years for the Colts and I believe the Eagles. But he ended up, hiring me. You know, I got certified, and but then my background check came back, and so kind of tying back into the what did you call it?
Yeah, man.
Loyal.
Tough to a fault. Tough to a fault. Yeah.
So you know, so I failed my background check, and so I couldn't get hired on, obviously, and then. So I went and kind of got a few things expunged and got that taken care of. And
lawyer fees.
Right.
Lawyer fees.
Right. All that nonsense.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a year or two went by, and then I applied. I had moved from the Duncanville, Cedar Hill area. I was now living in Grand Prairie, Arlington area.
Okay.
And I went to apply at one of those at the location in there. And I got hired on immediately. Within 4 months, I was a fitness manager. It worked out pretty well for me. The guy that hired me ended up moving to a different location and didn't have a fitness manager. And so it was kind of cool because there was 2 other guys that interviewed for the position who had been there over a year. I'd been there 4 months, and I crushed it right out the gate.
Right.
I was doing really well, and they gave me the job. You know, so I was in charge of the training department, which was pretty cool. But at the same time, it was, man, I made a ton of mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was doing as a trainer just yet, much less having to manage trainers. You know, and so it was tough, but it was I was really blessed with some great, and then even crazier, I went through 2 or 3 club managers within that first year or two, because the club I was at was one of the worst in the region. I mean, it was sink or swim, you know. And so the trainers were dropping like flies. I mean, if you couldn't, because you didn't get much. So the way training works, basically in a corporate gym, is a big portion of what you get from your clients is from the membership counters when they sell a membership, and it's bundled with some training, right? And then you flip it and continue. If you do a good job, they obviously want to continue training with you, right? We didn't get much help, if any, from our sales team, so we had to find the clients on our own. Which, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that hard, but it was.
No, when you start talking dollars and cents too, right. And we're talking 2000 and what is this, like 2009?
No, I think this is it's just like 07 or
okay.
08.
So if we're talking 07, 08, this is before CrossFit's a big thing.
Right.
This is before.
Might even been on 6.
Yeah. This is before everybody's out running 5Ks every weekend. So fitness is different at this point. So you know, you look now, everybody's in a gym or a part of a gym or something. Right. But then at the time you're talking, this is still, like, fitness as a regular lifestyle is still pretty new. So you got to work harder back then. So yeah, I hear you.
Right. And then, like I said, you add on that it's one of the worst clubs in the region. I mean, it was just, it was hard, man. The turnover rate for trainers was crazy. I think I went through like 12 in 1 year. You know what I mean? And but my man Troy, crazy thing is he was at the club down in Cedar Hill, and then he got transferred up to one up in North Dallas, I believe Mockingbird, and then shortly after that, then he got transferred down to mine. So it was kind of cool. The guy that originally, and I hadn't really talked to him since then. He came in as a club manager there, and I got to work with him for quite a bit, and he became one of my, you know, a big mentor for me, and because he came up through the fitness department, and whereas most club managers came up through the sales department, so it was really cool getting to learn from him. And what was really cool too is with it being one of the worst in the region, one of the 24-hour fitness corporate offices is in Dallas as well. So I was constantly at the corporate office having to answer questions as to why my club was doing so shitty, and they obviously knew it was like that before I got there, but they
got to do their job.
Right, you know. So I got to learn from some pretty cool people and some pretty smart people in the fitness industry, and it was cool, man. I was really, really blessed to have worked at that club at that time with the people that were working for 24 at that time as well, you know, and it really has helped me down the road as a business owner as I am now.
What gets you to Austin? What puts Austin as the place you want to be?
So, so I always knew. Well, once I started training, I knew I was like, all right. So I want my own gym one day. You know, that's gonna be my end game. Is I'm gonna get my own spot one day. And I didn't really want to do it in Dallas. I didn't want to go back home. And so the next best thing I wanted to get closer to home, but not quite home. You know, was Austin, and Austin is obviously huge fitness, city. So it just worked out great. You know, and I had a couple of nieces who were growing up, and then my youngest brother was getting into high school, and I wanted to be closer to be able to see them play and all that. You know, so
no. And the whole thing for me, again, I didn't move to Texas until 6th grade, so I don't grow up knowing about UT. Like, I don't grow up knowing about A&M, none of that. So when it got time to go to college, me being the procrastinator I am, I live in Texas. There's a school called Texas. It's an hour and a half down the road from my family, so it's close enough to where I can go home, but far enough away to where I never have to go home. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. And then plus, like I said, I got my little sister down the road, you know, who's growing up, and we of course, like the majority of our friends, even if they went to school in San Antonio, they're still kind of in that area, so you can go see the buddies when you want to. So yeah, I definitely understand that. So yeah, you got your family growing up. So do you go straight to that 24 in South Austin?
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So I came down and I kind of scoped out the scene. A couple weeks before the move, I wanted, because like I said, I was at one of the worst clubs, so I wanted to make sure I went into a good club. I was kind of tired of non-stop hustle, and so I wanted to kind of be able to sit back and relax a little bit. So I looked at the first one. You come in as Palmer. I looked at that one, which is a great gym. The club manager there was great when I met him, and he gave me a tour, and I liked it, but I didn't want to be north. So I was like, let me go check out the rest of them. So then I looked at the Hancock location, which is another great gym, great spot. That fitness manager kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, so I was like, eh. Then I went down to William Canyon, and I was sold. I really liked the fitness manager, really liked the club manager, really liked the club, liked the location, everything. So, and then it turned out too that just my second year there, we ended up being the highest grossing from a fitness standpoint. A 24-hour in the country, and there's almost 500. So it worked out. It really worked out.
And again, the whole thing about it, you talk about you getting the promotion quick, you being able to come there and find a gym. Like, you're not gifted is a weird word to say, but regardless of how gifted you may be, you work the hardest. Right. You really do. And like you said, you get that job off the strength of being there shorter than the other guys, because when you go into an interview, it's easy for you to say exactly what you want to do, because again, you have never had a problem selling yourself. And physically, you didn't have an issue with that, because it was, watch me go in here and do all the work you want me to do and more. And so, like, I'm just imagining that interview going, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it. And it working out that way. So, you get to come down here. Not only do you get to go to the gym you want to be at, but you end up helping that become the most successful one. Okay, so, and I'm going to say you're welcome, because that's where I got my membership, so I'll take some credit for that. Okay, so...
Well, so real quick, so it's funny you say that about the whole interview process, because I got, when I did that interview, and after I found out I got the position, I was pretty close to our service manager, who was in charge of the front desk staff, and I asked her, and she was sitting on the interview, as was our club manager, and then our district manager. The district manager was the one doing the interview. He was asking me all questions, and I was curious to know what his response was when I left, and they had already interviewed the other two, and so I asked her, I was like, so what did he say, like, right after, like, when I left? She's like, honestly, she goes, the first words and the only words out of his mouth were hands down. And I was like,
so you knew right away.
You know what I mean? I knew I killed it, and that's, and interestingly enough, as I became a fitness manager, and as I myself had to interview people and to be trainers, I would always tell people, because you get people walk up to you left and right, like, yo man, y'all hiring? And I would always say no, but we're always interviewing. And even if we were hiring, and because I wanted somebody who was going to look at that and be like, all right, I'm gonna get in there and crush the interview, and I'm not going to give you choice. You're gonna have to hire me, even though you aren't hiring right now. You know what I mean? I wanted somebody like that. And more often than not, they'd be like, oh, don't worry about it, Dan. I'll just, I'd be like, cool, I don't want you anyways. Because I always took that mentality. When I had somebody tell me, like, we're not really hiring, but, we're always interviewing, we're always taking applications. I'm like, cool, I'm going to get in there and you're going to hire me.
Yeah.
Is how I took it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and so here's what I'm curious about. You go to this gym. You help make it the most successful gym. You and I talk, and I want to say, man, we might have been, I think it was Docs. I think we were at Docs on South Kongress.
Yeah.
Funny enough. And we're having a conversation, and you tell me I'm looking at opening my own gym. And here's what you tell me. You say, man, I got this vision. I'm going to have my own stadium. I'm going to have a stadium. And I don't remember if it was Bigger, Faster, Stronger at the time that you said. But you were like, it's going to be a complex. And we're going to have weights. We're going to have a place for guys to go out and run. And it was just that you had this, this great plan. And I'm looking at you like, huh? Like, he wants what? But again, knowing you, I know that, even if that doesn't exactly happen, you're going to make this your own thing. What was it that made you want to get out of that corporate environment and have your own gym?
More than that, there was quite a few things.
And really quick, even before you say that, another reason I knew it was going to work, you talk about having your interviewing but not hiring. When we go back to that situation when you're on JV,
right?
There's not a spot for you,
right?
Like right then, there's not enough room. There's not enough letters to give out. There's no room, but you made that spot happen. Like this is what you do,
right?
All right. And again, like we talk about, you having those issues with the background check when you're going for that job,
right?
Based on what you have, who you are right then, there's not that spot.
Right.
You take the time when we talk about it, you're working hard, you're making enough money to survive at your age because, you're doing the construction thing. This money runs out because the jobs aren't always there. But you take that step back, you take care of those things from your past, then you got the job. So this is what you do. You make your own spots. What makes you, again, want your own spot as far as having your own gym, and what makes you go get that spot? How does that come about?
So... like I said, I kind of always knew I wanted my own spot, because when I got into training, I originally saw it as a stepping stone to become what I first wanted to do, which was be a strength and conditioning coach at a big Division I university, at UT or, wherever, Alabama, whatever. But then I fell in love with the whole, just like the one-on-one, training and seeing the goal. And I have athletes of all walks of life. I've trained them all, and just as much as I love training the elite professional athletes, it's just as satisfying when I have somebody who's 70 years old and, and they can balance on one leg for a minute for the first, and when they can't even, they're falling down walking in here. They're so weak and just, and their range of motion improve significantly, and just all these just little tangible things that I'm seeing, notice, and they all improve, and so it's really cool. So I fell in love with that, and that's when I kind of knew, like, I'm going to get my own spot. And so to fast forward to the move to Austin, and then getting my own spot, so it was 2010, I believe, and I kind of told. Because I think I moved here in 09.
I know it was March of 09 when you signed me up at the gym.
So I moved here in 09. Yeah, so I moved here in 09. So I've been in Austin for 2 years, I believe, at that time, right? And but I was I feel like I kind of reached, I was a master trainer. I had already been a fitness manager, and I had reached I didn't want to go corporate. I didn't want to be a club manager and a district manager and all that, because then I'm not training anymore.
Yeah.
So I kind of reached my glass ceiling, if you will, as far as what I could do. I'm only limited to just the members. I can't reach the whole city, whereas obviously my own gym, the sky's the limit. Mm-hmm. And so 2010, I'm sorry, early on, I sat down with my fitness manager. I was like, man, I don't know when. I said, but this year's gonna be my last year. I don't know exactly when, but I'm looking. I'm diligently looking for a location, you know, to open up my own spot. And we had a great talk, and he was super supportive. And then I talked to my club manager about it as well, and the same thing. And then, so around August of that year, I found out I was going to be a dad, a father, you know. So I was like, boom, this is it. Now I really have to do it, you know. And so I kind of, you know, it was coming up towards the last quarter of the year, which is the worst quarter of the year for the fitness industry. Everybody disappears during the holiday season.
Because of food habits.
Right, you know, which is understandable, you know. But then on the direct opposite, the first quarter of the year, you know, got the New Year's resolutions.
Because then they see what they look like from the food. So
exactly, you know. So I knew to set myself up for success, I probably should wait for that first quarter, right? And it gave me time to kind of plan things out as far as, you know, how to take my clients with me, because everything happens for a reason, man. And I've been crazy blessed, man. It's insane, you know. And so we just had literally like about the same time that where I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. We had two other guys quit, get fired, I forget what, but they kind of coached all of their clients how to get refunds on all their training packages, which really screwed the gym over.
Yeah.
And so that kind of put a bad taste in all of our managers' mouths. And so I told them, look, I'm going to leave. December's going to be 31st, going to be my last day. You know, I told them months in advance. You know, I was like, I am going to take everybody with me. I said, but I'm planning all their packages, you know, 20, 30 sessions, whatever, to where they will all be done by that day. That way, nobody's going to ask for a refund. But then it works out perfect for me as well, because then right out the gates, everybody's paying me, you know. So it worked out great. But the crazy thing, so everybody close to me that I love dearly and that loved me dearly, with an exception of one person, everybody told me that it was stupid. Horrible timing, because my son was going to be born in February. So I was going to be essentially doing this a month before I was going to become a father. But my wife, you know, my now wife, you know, we were dating at the time. She was the one
who's great, by the way.
Man,
we'll probably talk about her a little bit later.
Yeah,
she's great.
She's incredible, man. Thank you. She was the one that had my back. You know, it was like, no, you can do this. You know, and so, and it was crazy, because I've always been one to. I've never been one to play it safe, you know. And
I know.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, so everybody was like, oh, man, it's crazy. Like, what if you fail? What if you fall flat on your face? And I saw that as the exact opposite. Like, this is, like, there's no way I'm going to fail at this. I have to provide for my son now. Like, there's no way. Like, you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do this. Watch me work, you know. And that first year or two was rough, man. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was really rough, you know. And without my wife, I don't know that I would have been able to do it, you know. But you know, it worked out. And you know, for the first couple of years, I just kind of trained out of my apartment complex gym. So there was no overhead, so that obviously helped. You know, and I had some loyal clients already, you know, who stuck with me. But the crazy thing is, like, that first year, which was totally unplanned, nobody knew. I had like 5 of my clients end up getting relocated out of state. So bam, they're gone. So that was a huge blow. And so I had to really start getting out there and hustle. And, you know, but luckily I've been, you know, I've been really blessed with my abilities. And as a trainer, I've established myself as a pretty decent trainer here in town. And so word got out, and, you know, my clients talked me up, and word of mouth has worked great for me. And that's been my best marketing, is just referrals and just doing a good job, you know. So
here's what I want to talk about with that. We talk about marketing and word of mouth. Hashtag be somebody.
Oh yeah.
I am, you know, you live in this city, you're going up and down 35 all the time. Like, that's where you go. Right. So I'm coming, going back north. I'm assuming coming home from a weekend in San Antonio. I see you on a billboard.
Yeah.
Like immediately in, you know, middle of downtown.
Yeah.
How did you get linked up with those guys? And what exactly is the hashtag Be Somebody app?
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting story as well. I actually was scrolling on Facebook, and I saw this cool video from a local gym here in town, Atomic Athlete, which is a bunch of great guys. It's a great gym, great facility, run by a bunch of, I know for a fact the owner and I believe a few of the other coaches are all, veterans. True badasses, snipers, special forces. Heroes. And they run a great facility there, and they host an event every year that I've done once, but it's 31 Heroes workout event in August, which I believe it's been a few years, 3 or 4 years, that we had 31 elite special forces guys die in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan, and one of the sisters of a brother that passed away actually lives here in Austin, and she kind of helped get it going. And anyways, they actually posted a video of the workout, right? And and Be Somebody was the production behind it, and they kind of did it. And I was like, man, this is a cool ass video, and it was a great, just overall great video. And then I just scrolling, and literally on the same, as I'm continuing to scroll down, I see another video friend of mine, D-Mike, who's a drummer. I don't know if you know him in San Antonio. Andrew Galvan. He kind of manages him, and he's an incredible drummer. And there's a video on him that Be Somebody did, and I was like, what is this Be Somebody? And so then I got on and figured it out, and I got a hold of D-Mike, and he talked to me about it. He's like, man, actually, I've been wanting to get a hold of you, and you need to link up with them, and I was like, cool. So I got a hold of them, or actually, I think they had I got on their Facebook page, and they had a town hall meeting just to kind of raise awareness about who they are and what they're doing. And so I went to that, and I was actually kind of, surprisingly enough, I was kind of just, for whatever reason, I was just being quiet and just kind of shy, I guess, the majority of the time I was there that first time. And I was fixing to walk out the door and kind of just, but then I was like, man, you just go talk to this cat. And so,
because what you're saying, this is different.
Right.
This is this is tech, and
right.
From everything up until this point, everything we're talking about, this is you having firm control of things.
Right.
This is you being able to, for lack of a better way of saying it, use your hands
right.
to do what you need to do,
right,
use your
right,
voice.
Right.
So this is a new venture. So
absolutely.
So you and the guys start to talk. How does that go?
It goes really well. Matt Bennett is his name, and he's actually at the time he was ahead of the fitness people. So what they were doing is, and what they are is they're the world's first passion platform, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I actually was just speaking with Cash, the founder, a couple of weeks ago, and he got asked, what is it, where do you see Be Somebody in 5 years? And he said that he sees Be Somebody being the number one alternative to traditional education, right? Which is huge. Mm-hmm. Essentially what they want, and I believe what they will end up doing, is becoming that alternative, to spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in college, whereas you can focus on your one craft or one passion, the one thing that you really want to do that you ain't going to learn shit about in college. Mm-hmm. Why not just get on the app, get in touch with an expert? And as a matter of fact, he's already starting to do it, because he just got a guy he's like a flight instructor. He's mm-hmm. basically teaching his flight school on the app. So you can literally learn how to fly a plane through the Be Somebody.
And here's what I think is cool. So, of course, I've been working in private education,
right?
Pretty much since college.
Right,
and,
yeah.
It's, why take these basic courses and why take these electives when there's just one job you want to do?
Exactly.
And so, from what I understand about Be Somebody, it's, like you said, you got the guy, Andrew, manages D-Mike, who's a drummer. Hey, want to learn how to play these drums?
Boom.
Don't pick up a trombone.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're going to put you with the drummer. He's going to show you how to play these drums.
Exactly.
So
it's dope, man. And you think about whatever it is that you want. I mean, they pretty much got some type of expert on the app that can teach you in some form or fashion, And it's been a year. Well, it hasn't even quite been a year since they dropped the app in the Apple Store. I think we're coming up on a year. I don't remember if it was. I think it was November 11th, I believe, last year. So we're coming up on a year. And it obviously, it's a big learning curve, for everybody involved, for the whole Be Somebody team. And they matter of fact, they have a town hall meeting tonight that I'm going to. And shit, you should come too, brother. there's a lot of new things, and there's a brand new version of the app that they're fixing to launch. That it's money, man. It's money. So I'm excited, man. There's a lot of cool things that are going to come with the app, and I've kind of fallen off a little bit just because it is only available on an iPhone, and I'm a Droid guy, and so it's hard to stay on it with my iPad, and do I have Wi-Fi? Do I have my iPad with me? And but I've fallen off a little bit, but I'm getting back on it, because of how great it is, and I'm gonna be a lot more actively involved with it. The headquarters are incredible. There's a motocross track in the back of it. They got an outdoor basketball hoop. There's a helicopter landing on the head. It's awesome, man. It's really cool, and they're going to be doing some really, really cool things here for the next couple of years. So I'm excited for it.
So here's another great story about Be Somebody and about billboards. So your billboard's on one side of the highway, right?
Right.
The other side of the highway, there's a Be Somebody billboard with a guy who can teach you about martial arts.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So this guy is somebody we've known a really long time. Right? and it's funny, us being, guys grew up in Texas, it always goes back to football.
Right.
Now, Mike will tell you guys that when he was a freshman and sophomore, he wasn't the biggest kid. He wasn't the strongest kid.
Right.
Let me tell you who really wasn't the biggest and strongest kid. Me. I was 100 pounds soaking wet. And what they tell you is, when you're a freshman in high school, everybody's the same size and your body develops and all that. I remember this kid from Marshall High School, San Antonio, who was dragging me up and down the field to the tune of, I don't know if they dropped 40, 50 points on us. I don't know.
Yeah.
His kid's name is Daniel Jolly. Daniel Jolly is, one of the best athletes I've ever seen. And when we say athlete, this is a guy who was big. He's big and strong and fast, right? Yeah. That's how that works, right? Yeah, so the kid ends up playing football at Colorado. Plays football at Texas State. Grew up big-time martial arts guy. Okay? Now, from my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were not the best of friends growing up. Now, it always goes back to this, I'm tough to a fault. Okay? Right, it was, chip on your shoulder might not be the right thing, but it was, there's this big tough guy over here that I don't like.
Right.
I'm this big tough guy over here.
Right.
And we can't be big tough guys at the same time.
Right.
Okay?
No,
so,
right. There was no reason for us not to like each other.
Yeah.
We were just dumb. We were knuckleheads, you know? And so, we actually, he kind of, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, ran his high school. And I guess for lack of a better way, I ran
These
our
things are
high
true.
school.
These things are true.
And, and we met up a couple times, and we kind of did our way of working things out, And lucky for him, he and I never went toe to toe.
We'll say that. We'll make sure we might edit that out. Make sure he doesn't get to hear this.
But no, our crews, quote unquote, had some pretty crazy brawls, if you will. The first time they had us outnumbered and got the better of us, and the second time the roles were reversed a bit.
So we go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we hate each other. Yeah.
So we're talking about we're kids at this point still.
Right. 16, 17. Yeah. No,
get me from a kid getting kicked over the bushes. I don't know if you were there for that, but I remember that story. It was some kid. It might not have been you guys, but you kicked the kid over some bushes one time. Get me from the kid who kicks kids over bushes to...
Oh, that he did?
Yeah, that he did.
Yeah,
he was like, did I do it? Yeah, it was,
yeah, I heard about that too, yeah.
Take me from that to you being the guy he goes to when he needs to get in shape for a mixed martial arts fight. What gets us there?
So it's funny. We go back to that 24-hour fitness in South Austin off William Camden. We actually, I saw him, and I was like, "There's no way that's him," because he was tiny. In high school he was 230, 240. And at that time I had put on some size, and I was about 230, 240, and he would look like he was less than 200 pounds. And he actually was. He was training for a couple of amateur fights. Now, I think he did one, if not two, of his amateur fights at 185. Which to come down from 240, that's a big drop, And so he was way smaller than what I remember him being, and I was like, that's not him. And then he came in one day with a Marshall football shirt on, and I was like, that is him.
That's it,
you know. And so I went up to him. I said, man, you remember me? And he's like, yeah, I know who you are. And it was funny. And we just kind of, we shook hands, and just we were both past that bullshit, you know. Yeah. So we were grown men at that point. And so we just got to talking, and he had told me he was getting into MMA. And I think he had just got done with one of his amateur fights, and with his third amateur fight, and which he was undefeated 3-0 as an AMI. And then so I was like, you know, I said, man, I can help train you, you know. I can get you, be a strength conditioning coach. I'll get you ready for a fight. You can teach me some grappling or something, you know. And it kind of just grew from there, you know. It's funny, you know. And now he's my brother, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's family, you know. But yeah, it's crazy how life works out like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so, okay, so you and I are together here, you know, a month or two ago, right? Has a fight, doesn't necessarily go the right way, okay? Right. And again, I talk about knowing you at a certain age to knowing you now. The reaction was different. It was still, you know, you not really wanting to talk to anybody, you not wanting to be in that space, but at the same time, you know, you're there with your kid. And so the way you handle it emotionally is just different to me. The reason I kind of bring that up, I know how close you are with your brothers. Right. You have now, is it just Eddie and your youngest brother that you have?
No, I have an older sister.
There's an older sister, okay.
Correct.
And when I say that about your brothers, you know, Eddie spent some time in the military.
Right.
All right. And having a conversation about that, you know, you did feel like living in your shadow couldn't have contributed to that. He wanted to go out and prove himself, right?
No, he always wanted to be a Marine.
Okay, so that was the thing that was
from as far as I can remember. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, both of our granddads served in World War II. One was in the Navy, the other was a Marine. He wanted to be like my grandpa wanted to be a Marine. Yeah.
Your youngest brother, who turned out to be a really good athlete. Right. I remember, I think my sister actually came up because they're around the same age.
Right.
My sister came up to see him, you know, play up here in the playoffs. So, the reason I bring up your brothers, I know how close you are. I get to watch, sometimes, every once in a while in person, but on social media, I get to watch your two little boys. I get to watch them together, and it's just, again, us not knowing each other as kids, those two kids really love each other. Yeah, and man. I protect my brother always. Right. And my brother protects me always. And we give each other a hard time every now and again. Nobody comes between that.
Right.
Is that something that you feel like they got from you guys? How you guys interacted? Because I'm thinking, I know you and Eddie are fairly close in age. What is it, 2-year gap?
A year and a half.
A year and a half, okay. And then your youngest brother is a bit younger than you guys.
Right.
But does that parallel kind of your relationship with Eddie? Because from what I saw, it was kind of you leaving Eddie to his own devices, at least when we were in high school. Like Eddie kind of ran, you know, he played ball. Eddie kind of ran with his guys, and you were kind of off to the side with yours. Now, was it more you guys doing your own thing, or did you kind of keep Eddie as close as your guys are?
No, I definitely kept him close. You know, Eddie and I, you know, we were best friends. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I used to say this a lot. Like I you know, we're grown now. You know, we got our own families, and you know, and so we're not as close as we would both like to be. Lately, and we actually had a conversation about that about a month or two ago. But yeah. I used to say this all the time, that I had yet to meet a pair of siblings that I felt were as close as he and I were, you know, growing up, all the way through high school, and even through his time in the Marine Corps, you know, I mean, that was my man, it's my right-hand man, you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely hope and pray that my boys have that same relationship, you know, and it's crazy. My mom, something that I never even thought twice about. My mom had mentioned this years ago. You know, that my senior year, you know, we had our football pictures, and Eddie was a sophomore, and you know, the whole football team. I think varsity, JV, and freshman, we all took pictures on the same day, and so the JV Eddie was out there with the JV guys, and we were over here doing our thing, and you could take individual pictures, and then you could have, like, you know, with your positions, you know, your position groups, like, you know, the linebackers could take pictures, and then just with your boys, no matter who they were, you could, you know, and so I took a picture with a couple of my boys that were on the team. I know Mario, Daglo was one of them. Andrew Galvan was another. And then I forget, there might have been one or two others. And
San Miguel might have been in there. Yeah.
And I grabbed Eddie. I pulled Eddie. I wanted Eddie to be in there as well. And my mom, she talked about that and was like getting teary-eyed because it was a big deal to her that, you know, here I was, this quote unquote, you know, the big varsity guy, you know, but I didn't give two shits. Like, that's my brother. He's going to be in the picture with me. You know what I mean? And I never thought twice about it. You know, it's my brother. You know, but I guess at the end of the day, there are a lot of guys that don't see their kid brothers like that, and don't include them like that. You know, which blows my mind. You know, because I've never thought of not including my brother in something that I'm doing. And I hope and I pray and I am doing my best to guide my boys to be the same way with each other.
I think we talk brotherhood. I think the coolest thing that you do as a sign of brotherhood is what you do every September 11th.
You still gotta get out there, man.
I don't want to put that out there. But so you do kind of and fill in the details, but it's kind of a simulated 9/11 walk up Mount Bunnell.
Correct.
Which is kind of you creating the path that the first responders had to take. At least, you know, recreating the amount of distance they had to cover in order to get to you know, potential survivors of of what happened on 9/11. Now, I always tell this story. I remember where I was that morning. It was me and Peanut. Matter of fact, me, Peanut, Stein, and Rob Moreno. Me and Peanut get to school. We're up in the varsity locker room. Yeah. Rob Moreno and Stein are already in there, and they're watching the news. And then we kind of see the second plane hit. Like, we're watching this. So to give people perspective, we are, this was 01, right? Correct. So we're juniors. We're juniors in high school. So we're, you know, cognizant of what's going on. So tell me about what you do at Mount Bunnell and what kind of pushed you to do that.
So I was in the locker room then too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I was there too. But yeah, so 5 years ago, so a big organization that I've been pretty actively involved with as well is Team Red, White, and Blue. Mm-hmm. And the founder actually grew up in Syracuse with a lot of my family. Mm-hmm. My dad's from Syracuse, upstate New York.
And just so you guys know, he has a Syracuse hat on right now as we're talking.
Go Orange, baby. But and my cousin had posted something about Team Red, White, and Blue, you know, and his friend Mike Irwin, you know, the founder, and I got on and I looked at it, and at the time, Eddie, I believe, had just gotten back from Afghanistan, or it was either he just got back or he just got out of the Marine Corps, one or the other. Okay. And you know, he did 2 tours. You know, got wounded in Iraq. You know, I've been through some things, and you know, wasn't in the best place. You know, and so you know, I was always trying to find something that I couldn't relate to him in the things that he had seen and done. You know, you know, and so I couldn't necessarily sympathize with him. I would empathize as best I could. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I always kind of wanted to give back to veterans. I kind of regretted not going in with him, and so that was a big weight on my shoulders. And well, it was around 9/11, and the founder of RWB actually had posted something on Facebook about having a moving tribute, what he called On 9/11, and basically it meant just to get out and move on September 11th to pay tribute in honor of the fallen. And it was kind of just like, I don't care, you know, where you are, who you're with. It can be your everyday workout routine. It could be something extra. It could be whatever. Just get out and move and kind of direct that towards paying tribute for the fallen. So I had an idea. I was like, man, let's do something. Let's go big, go home, and let's get up on Mount Bunnell and climb it. So I did the math to figure out how many steps would equate to running up each twin tower once. And so there's 99 steps on Mount Bunnell, and there's no exact number that I could find, but a story or a flight of stairs roughly is 20 steps. So did the math, and so up and down Mount Bunnell, well, up Mount Bunnell, so the down is included, but up Mount Bunnell 44 times is equivalent to running up each twin tower once. and that first year, it was about a month out that I made an event page on Facebook, and we had about 20, 30 people show up, and now we have over 100 each year. And we've got first responders come out, veterans, and people from out of town coming in for it. This year we were on 3 different local news stations, raising awareness for it, and they did stories on it, and it's great, man. It's just kind of an event to kind of get out and pay tribute to the fallen and honor them, obviously. And I've done it. I didn't do it this year, but the last 3 years I've done it in full firefighter gear, along with a couple of my friends that are firefighters as well. And that's tough.
Yeah.
It's rough. But there's no better way, in my opinion, to pay tribute, on a day like that.
So, you're 17, Mike. You're 17. You're an athlete who is a hard worker. Okay? Ran into some things, ran into some issues. But, found a way to get through those. Took some time, but you found a way to get through them. You sit here today. You own your own business.
Right.
All right? You got a wonderful wife, great kids.
Right.
All right? And you matter out here in the community.
Mm-hmm.
All right? If anything, you are proof that hard work does pay off. Now, like you said, you had some good people around you, and you caught a few breaks. But, again, me knowing you as long as I've known you, the majority of this you did yourself. All right? How does your life, where you've been, how does it translate to out there? People who can't see me, I'm pointing towards the direction of all the weights and ropes and running area. What do people get from you as a trainer and as a mentor and as a coach with Bigger, Faster, Stronger Training?
Man, that's a good question.
I told him I was going to embarrass him. This is like the 4th time he got to sit back. So yeah, what do they get from you based on all your experiences, Mike?
I would say rawness, realness. I'm not one to sugarcoat much. I call it how I see it, and I'm not one of those type. In the training world, in the fitness community, it's often compared, because Biggest Loser is such a big popular show.
Mm-hmm.
You're either Bob or you're Jillian. I'm definitely not a Bob.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite as, Jillian's a little out there,
Yeah.
with how she is. I'm not anywhere near that either. But I would say I'm a little closer to that, in a sense that, I'm not going to baby you. Well,
let me put an example in, just so people know, really quick. So Mike got me to come out here one time and work out. And the workout's going okay. It's definitely, it's me coming in. Yeah, I've been lifting a little bit. I'm getting back in shape. There's nothing he can show me. And yeah, I got my ass kicked pretty bad. Now, it was all fair and it was all good. But the thing that I remember, I forget exactly what we were doing. It might have been like 90-second planks or something like that. And I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, this is so tough. And you look at me and you say, hey, it might be because your abs aren't very strong. And it was the way that you said it where, it was funny. And I wasn't offended at all. But It was like, you're like, hey, that's just what it is. It wasn't stern. It was factual, but it was presented in a way that I was like, you know what? Okay. I see how much I can do based on that.
Right.
I can get better from that.
So it's funny you say that, because I was just about to get into something like that, that what they get from me, and I learned this from, touching back on, the people that I've been around and worked under, a guy by the name of Steve Date. He was our regional manager, I believe, at the time. And a lot of people didn't necessarily, not that they didn't like him, but he was a straight shooter. He didn't care about your feelings. He told you what you needed to get done, and either you did well or you didn't. And I really liked the guy. I really liked the guy, because he was just full of information, man. And he was a fast talker, man. And he was a go-getter. But one thing that, and there was a lot of things that he would say that really I've stuck with. But one of the things that really, really, really stuck with me, and I try to live by it, is everybody knows the golden rule. Treat others how you like to be treated. He's like, man, no, that's not accurate. You need to treat others the way they want to be treated, because everybody's different, and the way I want to be treated is different than how somebody else could want to be treated. For instance, and as he's saying this, my wheels are spinning, and I'm like, no, he's right. Because I personally, as a trainer, as an athlete, I personally work better and harder when I have somebody yelling, screaming at me, telling me I'm a bitch. Are you serious? That's all you're fucking doing,
Yeah.
So I've done, I feel like, a pretty good job at establishing a pretty good, I wouldn't say judgment, but just kind of how I can really tap into each individual's inner, fire and what's going to get them going, and so everybody gets a little something different from me because everybody's different, so I would say that what they get from me is obviously kind of, I'm going to treat you the way I feel like you want to be treated. And I started to say I don't baby people, but I do. There are certain people that need to be babied.
Because they need that.
Right. And so I got no problem with doing that, but then there's a type like me who love being yelled and screamed at, and so and then there's obviously everybody in between. So that's one thing that I've really been blessed with, the ability to kind of be pretty quick on how to read people and what gets them going, what gets their motor going, and so that's the biggest thing I would say, that the biggest positive that you're going to get from me is that you're going to be able to get motivated in here. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be able to figure it out. It may take, others may take longer than others, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to get you going. So
Michael Hara he's a high school football player. He's a college football player. He's a rebel without a cause. He's a cashier. He's a construction worker. He's, a personal trainer. He is a dad. He's a husband. He's a community leader. And he is the owner, proprietor, head trainer of Bigger, Faster, Stronger Training. And at this point, he's my friend. And all those things are really appreciated. Mike, I hope you had fun. I hope I didn't pull too many tears out of you, man.
No, man. It was cool, man. I appreciate this opportunity, man. It was a cool experience. I really appreciate you. And shit, man, you're doing big things too, man. I gotta say, I really enjoy. You make my day fun, and all your posts on social media, and I'll tell you too. One thing too, man, is you've really opened my eyes on a lot of different social. And different.
It's a big world, isn't it?
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying?
It's a big world, man.
And it's cool, because as a young kid in high school and college, there's so many things that you think or you think you believe, and as you get older, and being a father changed my perspective on a ton of things as well. But I really enjoy reading all your stuff, man, on social media, and I enjoy the things that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to this podcast, because I know it's going to be huge, man. I know you're going to blow it up, so I appreciate you, brother.
There we go, man. Good times.
There we go.